students, in this session we are going to start with a concept that is a transport of CO2 through blood. So this CO2, it gets transported in three ways. The three ways are through plasma, okay, then through blood, and the third is binding with hemoglobin. So what happens is, in the first case, if we see the 7% of carbon dioxide, it get diffused into the plasma. So what is, if you ask me what is the difference between plasma and blood, so just like we have water in our body, so the main constituent of blood is water, okay. So the plasma, it is nothing but it's a yellow fluid, it acts as a water, so it acts as a transporting media. So if you if suppose this is your blood, okay, and suppose if you remove all the RBCs, okay, or the WBCs, okay, everything if you remove, okay, what remains is just a fluid, okay. The fluid contains some clotting factors and some proteins. So if you remove all the RBCs and WBCs, whatever the yellow fluid that remains, okay, this is called as plasma. So not more but only 7% of carbon dioxide, it get diffused into the plasma, and what happens is CO2, okay, the reaction takes place, H2CO3 is formed, carbonic acid is formed. But what happens in blood, okay, so 70, near about 70% of this carbon dioxide, okay, it diffuses from plasma into blood, okay. First it diffuses into plasma, then it diffuses into blood. So into the blood, this carbon dioxide, okay, it get diffused from the blood, it get diffused into the RBCs, okay. The RBCs have a special enzyme, okay, that is called as carbonic anhydrase, okay. So with the help of this enzyme, carbon dioxide, okay, it gets converted into carbonic acid, H2CO3. But as you know, there is a carbonic acid is a very unstable product, so it gets converted into H plus HCO3 minus, bicarbonate ion is formed, okay. And the third way is binding with hemoglobin. So hemoglobin has a, you know, the carbon dioxide and oxygen, they are the good competitors, okay, who always compete to bind with hemoglobin. So when this carbon dioxide, it binds with hemoglobin, this is called as carbaxyhaemoglobin, carbaxyhaemoglobin, okay, hemoglobin. So what happens here is, the oxygen, you know, the hemoglobin, I have shown you the chains, okay. So here, you know, the oxygen, where the oxygen binds at ion center, but here where the carbon dioxide binds, the carbon dioxide binds to the chain, okay. It binds to the side chain of this hemoglobin, okay, and it forms carbaxyhaemoglobin. So near about 23%, okay, of this carbon dioxide, it binds with hemoglobin and it converts into carboxyhemoglobin, okay. So we'll go to the next part. We'll see overall the processes, what happens, okay. The first thing we'll see from tissues, okay. Suppose these are your tissues, okay. So you know the tissues, they are the metabolizing tissues, where there's a continuous utilization of oxygen, and these tissues, they become rich in carbon dioxide, okay. So the carbon dioxide, here what I will do is I'll draw big RBC, okay. So what happens is a carbon dioxide, okay, it get diffused into the RBC. So CO2, you know the way, like, you know the pathway, the H2O H2CO3 is formed, okay. It converts into H plus HCO3 minus, okay. So this is the way this it's converted into bicarbonate. Now the bicarbonate ions, it diffuses out of this RBC and enters into plasma, HCO3 minus. But when it get diffused, okay, out of this blood, it changes, okay, it changes the charge. So the it disturbs the charge that is present in the RBC. So chloride ions enter, Okay, it is balanced by entry of chloride ion. So this is called as chloride shift. This is called as chloride shift. Sorry, this is called as chloride, okay, shift. Now what happens is, now the hydrogen, okay, the hemoglobin, now they also contain hemoglobin, oxyhemoglobin, they also contain oxyhemoglobin. So what happens here is, hemoglobin, I have told you already the Bohr effect, that whenever there is a high partial pressure of carbon dioxide, okay, when the CO2 gets entered, whenever there is a high partial pressure of carbon dioxide, there is a high concentration of hydrogen. So these are the factors which are responsible for decreasing, okay, the affinity of hemoglobin with oxygen. So hemoglobin becomes free, okay, oxygen, then it gets entered into your tissues, okay. Then what about this hemoglobin? Once this hemoglobin gets emptied, okay, after it gets dissociated from oxygen, it combines with hydrogen, okay. Now the hemoglobin has a affinity for hydrogen, so hemoglobin combines with hydrogen. This is a very, very important step, okay. So what is next here? What I'm doing is, here I'm drawing alveoli, okay. Now the alveoli, the oxygen, okay, that we are inhaling. So the alveoli, they are very, very rich in oxygen. Here I'll draw, they are enriched with oxygen, okay. Here again I'll draw RBC. Now what happens is, the same bicarbonate ions, okay, they come here. Now what happens is, the in the previous case we have drawn that HB, okay, sorry, the hemoglobin, okay, it binds with the hemoglobin, okay, it binds with hydrogen. Now once the partial pressure of O2 is high here, okay, so the hemoglobin will be dissociated from hydrogen, okay, and hemoglobin, then it will bind with oxygen, okay. So HbO2 is formed here, clear. And what happens to here, like the CO2 plus H2O, okay, H2CO3, then H plus HCO3 minus, okay. As you know, the hemoglobin, okay, it is getting dissociated from the hydrogen, so hydrogen concentration is increasing. And as you know, the Lee Chatelier's principle, okay, once this the chemical equilibrium, it tries to maintain the left and the right reactant same, the concentration of the reactant same. So what happens is, here as the H plus concentration is increasing, the the chemical shift will the chemical, like the reaction, the equilibrium, okay, the equilibrium will get be shifted to the left side, okay. So there'll be more and more H2CO3 will be produced because of the high concentration of hydrogen. More and more H2CO3 will be produced, okay. As a result, the H2CO3 will break down into carbon dioxide and CO2, and this carbon dioxide will get exhaled out, okay. So this process happens in the transport of carbon dioxide. This is the balance how this tissues, okay, the tissues, the alveoli, the cells that are coming from this alveoli, they supply oxygen, okay, to the tissues, and they carry these impure blood that contains HCO3, okay, and it helps to expel out all these carbon dioxide through exhalation. So these things happen.